My dad left me his house, but told me never to open the basement. My dad left me his house after he died. But in his will, there was one strange condition. I was never allowed to open the basement door. Not, don't go downstairs. Not, be careful, he specifically wrote, whatever you do, never open the basement. I thought it was strange, but I promised him I wouldn't. My dad had always been a private person. He lived alone for almost 20 years after my mom died. He didn't have many friends. He didn't talk about his past, and whenever I asked about the basement, he'd get unusually quiet. Once, when I was around 12, I tried opening the basement door. My dad grabbed my hand before I could turn the handle. He looked terrified. He said, "Promise me you'll never go down there." I'd never seen him that scared before, so I promised. Years later, he died unexpectedly, and I inherited the house. The first few days were difficult. Every room reminded me of him. His chair, his books, his old coffee mug. Everything was exactly where he'd left it. Then I noticed the basement door. It had 3 locks on it. I had never noticed that before. I remembered his warning, so I stayed away. Until about 2 weeks later, I was cleaning his office when I found an envelope inside his desk. My name was written on it. Inside was a single sentence: "If you're reading this, something has gone wrong." My heart started racing. Underneath it was another line: "The basement contains the truth about your mother." I stopped breathing for a second. My mother had died when I was 6. I'd always been told it was an accident, a car accident. There was never anything suspicious about it. At least, that's what my dad had told me. I read the letter again. Then I found a key taped to the back. The key was labeled basement. I knew I shouldn't use it, but I needed answers. I walked to the basement door. My hands were shaking. I unlocked the first lock, then the second, then the third. The door opened with a loud creak. The basement was completely dark. I turned on the light. There were shelves everywhere, boxes, old photographs, newspapers, and dozens of files. I picked up the first file. It had my mother's name on it. Inside were photographs of the car accident, but something was wrong. The pictures showed damage to the car from the back, yet the police report said my mother had crashed into a wall from the front. I kept searching. Then I found a newspaper clipping. The headline said, "Woman dies in mysterious highway accident." Below it was a photograph of my mother. My hands started shaking. Then I found something even stranger. A security camera photograph. It showed my mother's car leaving our neighborhood that night, and someone was driving it. It wasn't my mother. I looked through the rest of the files. There were bank records, phone records, police documents, and finally, a handwritten journal. It belonged to my dad. I opened the last few pages. He wrote, "I lied to my son for years. Your mother didn't die because of an accident. Someone caused it." I could barely breathe. Then I read the next line. "And I know who did it." I turned the page, but the next page had been ripped out. I searched the basement for hours. Nothing. Then I noticed something behind an old bookshelf. There was a small hidden compartment in the wall. Inside was a USB drive. I plugged it into my laptop. There was one video. My dad appeared on the screen. He looked older, tired, and scared. He said, "If you're watching this, I'm probably gone. I didn't tell you the truth because I was afraid they'd come after you too." He paused. Then he said something that completely destroyed everything I believed about my family. "Your mother wasn't killed by a stranger. She was killed by someone she trusted." I leaned closer to the screen. My dad looked directly into the camera, and then he said, "It was your uncle." I froze. My uncle had always been around. He came to my birth. To the video, my uncle had been stealing money from my parents' business. My mother discovered it. She threatened to expose him, so he arranged the accident. My dad found out afterward, but he couldn't prove it. So he spent the next 20 years secretly collecting evidence. The basement wasn't filled with random memories. It was an entire investigation. Then the video continued. My dad said, "I know what you're thinking. Why didn't I go to the police?" I tried, but the evidence disappeared. Someone inside the department was helping him. Then he looked directly into the camera. "That's why I left everything in the basement. If I'm dead, and you're watching this, don't trust anyone who asks you to sell this house." The video ended. The next morning, my uncle called me. His first words were, "So, are you planning to sell your dad's house?" Elle didn't answer, because I suddenly understood. He knew. Somehow, he knew I'd opened the basement. I told him I'd think about it. Then I contacted a lawyer and gave them everything. The evidence was enough to reopen my mother's case. Months later, my uncle was arrested. And for the first time in 20 years, the truth about my mother's death came out. I still live in my dad's house. I still have the basement, but I never go down there alone anymore. Because every time I see that door, I remember my dad's warning. He wasn't trying to hide a secret from me. He was trying to protect me from it. And the strangest part. A week after my uncle was arrested, I found one final note inside the basement. It said, "I'm sorry I couldn't tell you the truth sooner. I loved you enough to let you hate me for keeping it from you." I finally understood why my dad had kept that door locked for all those years. Sometimes the truth isn't dangerous because it's a lie. It's dangerous because someone will do anything to keep it hidden. What would you have done if you found that basement?